Okay, you can start now if you want to. I've put live, YouTube
I
on.
do kirtan for 5 minutes, right?
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta-vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta-vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Jaya Gurudeva Srila Prabhupada Krishna Balaram Jaya Vrindavan Jayo Lalita Vishaka Jayo Radesha Lalita Vishaka Jayo Radesha Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivarajacharya Ashtotara Sat Shri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Sridhar Swami Srila Prabhupada Jai ISKCON BBT founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki Jai Jam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivarajacharya Ashtotara Sat Shri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj Prabhupada ki So sorry. Om Jam Vishnupada Srila Gaura Kishordas Babaji Maharaj ki Jai Jam Vishnupada Srila Sachidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki Jai Jam Vishnupada Vaishnava Sarabhama Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki Jai Jai Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunatha Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Raghunatha Sat Goswami Prabhu ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai Prem se kahu Shri Chaitanya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopika Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Jai Shri Mayapur Vrindavan Jai Shri Bhakti Devi Tulsidevi Jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai ISKCON Vartamana Guru Vrinda ki Jai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari All glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Kuranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Panchakalpatarubhyasya kripasamudhyasya. Hare Krishna. Today we are reading from Bhagavad Gita, 4th chapter, entitled Transcendental Knowledge, text number 21. So, here. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Nirāśīr yata-cittātmā tyakta-sarva-parigrahaḥ śārīraṁ kevalaṁ karma kurvan nāpnoti kilbiṣam. Nirāśīr yata-cittātmā tyakta-sarva-parigrahaḥ śārīraṁ kevalaṁ karma kurvan nāpnoti kilbiṣam. Nirāśīr yata-cittātmā tyakta-sarva-parigrahaḥ śārīraṁ kevalaṁ karma kurvan nāpnoti kilbiṣam. Receive word to word meaning. Nirāśīr, without desire for the result. Yata, control. Citta-atma, mind and intelligence. Tyaktva, giving up. Sarva, all. Parigrahaḥ, sense of proprietorship over possessions. Nirāśīr, in keeping body and soul together. Kevalaṁ, only. Karma, work. Kurvan, doing. Na, never. Nāpnoti, thus acquire. Kilbiṣam, sinful reactions. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. Such a man of understanding acts with mind and intelligence, perfectly controlled, gives up all sense of proprietorship over his possessions, and acts only for the bare necessities of life. Thus working, he is not affected by sinful reactions. Purport. A Krishna-conscious person does not expect good or bad results in his activities. His mind and intelligence are fully controlled. He knows that because he is part and parcel of the Supreme, the part played by him as a part and parcel of the whole is not his own activity, but is only being done through him by the Supreme. When the hand moves, it does not move out of its own accord, but by the endeavor of the whole body. A Krishna-conscious person is always dovetailed with the supreme desire, for he has no desire for the personal sense gratification. He moves exactly like a part of a machine. As a machine part requires oiling and cleaning for maintenance, so a Krishna-conscious man maintains himself by his word, just to remain fit for action in transcendental loving service of the Lord. He is therefore immune to all reactions of his endeavors. Like an animal, he has no proprietorship even over his own body. A cruel proprietor of an animal sometimes kills the animal in his possession, yet the animal does not protest, nor does it have any real independence. A Krishna-conscious person is fully engaged in self-realization, has very little time to falsely possess any material object. For maintaining body and soul, he does not require unfair means of accumulating money. He does not therefore become contaminated by such material sins. He is free from all reactions to his actions. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatham Tam Sajivam Satvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vedamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanustute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna everyone. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. So today we'll go a little bit into discussion into 4.21. I have my laptop on my side just to look into the notes I have prepared. So don't mind if I'm looking that way. So first of all, I express my deepest gratitude. Even though it's a lockdown situation, I still have an opportunity to study and share Bhagavad Gita with you all. And hope this discussion would be meaningful and inspire you in your Krishna consciousness and help me to purify myself. And it will be a pleasure for Prabhupada and for my spiritual master. So here, this particular verse is 21. So it's in the middle of the chapter. This chapter has 42 verses. So here we see Krishna has a shift in his dialogue. Initially, Krishna starts how he is giving this knowledge. Who did he give to? Why is this knowledge important? How to receive it? And what is the importance of learning this knowledge? And suddenly he shifts his gears and then he talks about fruitive activity, fruitive mentality. So I was thinking that how do we link both the transcendental knowledge and material fruitive activity? So here we also see that, the conditioned souls are in this material nature because they have this desire to lord over. And they're lording over, and to lord over, they need an activity. So because they don't want to work under Krishna, they have to do independently. So this lording over is the material activity, what they are doing it. And I thought that today's verse is much more interesting verse. Interesting because it is possible. Is it really possible to apply? I mean, I was reading, we see the translation. Such a man of understanding acts with his mind and intelligence perfectly controlled, and gives a sense of proprietorship over his possessions. And what is the third? He acts only for the bare necessities of life. And then finally, he is not affected by the sinful reactions. So really, practically, is it possible for us to come to this stage? Yesterday, His Grace Asitaraja Prabhu was beautifully summarizing the whole chapter. And he was making many points. And one point that really struck me is that, when he was describing about Janma Karma Chame Divyam Evam Yoget Tatvataha Tvaitva Deham Puna Janma Naikrimam Iti Soach. So Krishna is saying that just know my birth and activities, and then you will never return to this material world. And then Prabhu immediately switched to the next verse, which is 4:10. And he says that one who is about the Vikaraga Bhaya Krodha, and who is fully absorbed, who is free from attachment, fear, and anger, and who is fully absorbed in Krishna, those persons can have access to the transcendental knowledge, and they are the one who will return back to Godhead. And I thought it is a very profound statement. It's not about knowing Krishna alone is sufficient. It's about the practical application of what is it meant to be acting on that platform. So hopefully we will discuss so that we will also have some practical tips from the examples or from the purpose of Srila Prabhupada, so that we can pave our path back to God, or we become more inclined to adopt to what this translation is basically saying, because I am not at this level for sure, but I was really inspired that, I should work practically to this step. So I wanted to share one little story. It is a story of little birds. These little birds are ready to go to a gurukul, and the birds' parents are ready to join them in a gurukul. So the birds got their admission in the gurukul. So here is the guru bird, the king. and it's training the little birds in the matters of life. So the lesson starts for this semester. So the first lesson the little birds learn. There will be a hunter, and he will come and spread the grains. He will put the nets. Don't get tempted. So every day of the whole semester, maybe the semester is for 3 months, 4 months, I don't know. Every day they were learning the same lesson again and again and again. The hunter will come. He will put the grains. He will lay the nets, and don't get tempted. And finally, it's the examination time. The birds gave their exams, and everyone passed in distinction. And then they had the oral examination on the same topic. The hunter will come, he will put the grains, he will lay the net, don't get tempted. And everyone passed. So theory is distinction and practical is distinction. No, orals is distinction. So they all are returning home after the semester back. And on the way to home, so the Maya is thinking, okay, let me test these birds. They all passed in distinctions in both practical as well as, both theoretical and orals. Let me test them practical. So the hunter came and he put the grains, he laid the nets, and what happened? Can anyone guess? What could have happened there? Anyone wants to say something? Okay.
I would suggest the birds got caught.
Oh, okay. So that means they are tempted, right?
They failed the practical.
Yeah. So this is what exactly happens with us. Bhagavad Gita is a manual that's dealing with our temptations. We have to deal with these temptations. And actually what happened with the birds is greed took over them, the greed. So Prabhupada says in the Bhagavad Gita 16:21, Krishna says actually, 16:21, the 3 gates of hell, it's the greed, lust and anger. And because of this, even a sane man can degrade his consciousness. But they're very subtle, and so it becomes more difficult to deal with it, to deal with the greed, to deal with the lust, to deal with the anger. Maybe anger is a little bit more gross, but it also starts very subtle. And this verse, today's verse, 421, is speaking about a Krishna conscious person who is, although engaged in karmic work, is above these temptations. And how is he able to do this, these temptations? Because first thing he did is his mind and intelligence was perfectly controlled. And then he gave up all sense of proprietorship over his possessions. That means he must have a higher understanding. And he acted only for bare necessities of life. That means the value he gave for the human body is much more the priority. He learned how to keep Krishna consciousness as a priority. And he understood the value of the human body. And Prabhupada also talks about in verse 327, Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasa ahankara vimudatma kattaham iti manyate. In this purport, Prabhupada interestingly brings out 2 people working the same way, same material activity, but there is a wide gulf of difference in their positions because of their consciousness. So Prabhupada points out that a devotee is working in Krishna consciousness to maintain his Krishna conscious activity, to help and support. That's why he's working. And because of that, he knows what is his priority, and he's not getting mistaken with what is my need and how to support my need. So he was able to acknowledge Krishna's proprietorship. So Krishna's proprietorship also Krishna declares in 529. Bhoktaram yajna tapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suhridam sarvabhutanam nāpnoti sāntirikṣati. So here Krishna declares that he is a supreme enjoyer, supreme benefactor, and a friend of all, and supreme proprietor as well. And we also see Prabhupada brings out this similar comparison in 18.9 purport. Says that a Krishna conscious man is working in a factory, but he's not identifying with the work, neither with the workers nor with the factory, but he's alone doing his work. But a materialistic person, as we heard before, 327, prakrite kriyamanani, prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasya ahankara vimudatma kartaham iti manyate. Because he's under the grip of the false ego, he's acting under the modes, he falsely thinks that he's the doer of his activities. And although he's working, he doesn't know that he is just a puppet in the hands of the modes of material nature. He doesn't understand that he's not independent, but he thinks he's independent actually. And he is the doer of the activities. And Prabhupada says that this is a symptom of nescience. So one does not recognize what is his actual position. But whereas a Krishna conscious person recognizes what is his actual position. So because his mind and senses are perfectly controlled, and because of this recognition, he's able to give the sense of proprietorship over his possession, and he's just accepting his quota. So let us think both the situation, the materialistic person situation and the Krishna conscious person situation for a moment, and let's reflect. Is it true that do I come under this grip of this false ego? Do I always acknowledge Krishna's proprietorship? At least to speak of myself, I don't. Yes, I'm on the path of the Krishna consciousness, but I'm not there yet. But Prabhupada is giving further guidance. We will see further into the purport and then some other points. The first question, I was thinking that why I'm not able to come to this platform. So that takes me back into a little more discussion is, why are we in this material world? We are in this material world because I want to enjoy like Krishna. I want to be like Krishna. And so to facilitate my childish desire, Krishna gave me facilities and atmosphere to function in this place. And so Krishna is telling, okay, you go and you try out. So we come here and we try, but we are never satisfied. How much ever we get, when we have some pennies in our pocket, we think about having some rupees. And when we have sufficient rupees, that is never satisfying. We go for higher and higher and higher. So we aim high. Aiming high is not bad, but aiming for something temporary is the problem of the modern civilization. And that's how we are tuned in, right? So that's why we are not able to control our mind and senses or intelligence. We are not able to give up this greed. We are not able to come out of this temptation. So we do have lording over tendencies. So that's why we are not able to accept only things that are bare necessities of life. But a Krishna conscious person is above all these things because he understands his quota. So in Ishopanishad, mantra 1, it talks about Ishavasham idam sarvam yat kincham jagatan jagat tena taktvena bunjita ma grihatasya svidhanam. Everything animate or inanimate that is within the universe is controlled and owned by the Lord. One should therefore accept only those things necessary for himself, which are set aside as his quota, and one should not accept other things, knowing well to whom they belong. So, a Krishna conscious person is knowing his quota, and also he understands everything that is animate and inanimate. Who is the proprietor? He accepts Krishna is behind. So he is the actual proprietor. And Srila Prabhupada says that one should act according to one's quota. So oftentimes we ask ourselves or ask around, what is one's quota means? One's quota means where we can perform our Krishna consciousness nicely, and where we'll never be able to remove that priority from our life. Krishna consciousness, practicing bhakti is our first priority, and next comes every other activity. That doesn't mean that we are anti-work, but we are surrounding our activities and facilitating all the activities around the bhakti lifestyle. Devamrita Swami says that Bhakti Yoga is actually the art, culture, and science of how to love the Supreme. And yesterday in the class, Siddharaja Prabhu was also sharing the science. What is the science of, what is the spiritual science? That means knowing Krishna. So even in Bhagavad Gita, this 4th chapter, in the first few verses, Prabhupada translated the first 2-3 verses saying that this is the supreme science. Science means that which has a theory and that which has a practical application. Formulas and apply them, we get a result. So this is generally this is science, Then we accept that as a fact. We are not just interested in theories. So that also shows that this verse 421 has a great value of application. Now, let's take to a next level. Okay, I am not there, but are there any people who followed this principle? Okay, what is my level? My level is I'm trying to get regulated in my eating, sleeping, mating and defending, recreation and work. And I'm trying my best, out of my best, to offer to Krishna. Is this enough? Okay, so we will examine in comparison with an example from Srimad Bhagavatam. I chose Prahlad Maharaj today. And what is the characteristic of Prahlad Maharaj? He is 100% Krishna conscious. And because he was 100% Krishna conscious, right? He wasn't worried about his material activities. It's been taken over. It's been taken care so nicely. Prabhupada gives an example saying that have a mother and father takes care of the little child, and the little child never has any anxieties. They're so happy, cheerful, they're playful, and they're never anxious. Will the food come onto my plate? Will I have enough clothes? Will I have shelter? Will I have this? Will I have that? The child doesn't have any of such worries. So Prahlad is also in the similar situation. And Prahlad was never worried about what is happening around him. And because he is Govinda Parirampita, so he's invested himself into Krishna, and Krishna took care of him so nicely. So yeah, of course, he's a Mahabhagavat, no doubt. So he sees everything in relation to Krishna and Krishna serves. So what is his motive? I mean, I really wanted to look into his motive. Where does he get this strength from? So Bhagavatam, 7th canto, 6th verse, 24th shloka. Tasmat sarveshu bhuteshu dayam kuruta sakrudam bhavāmasura munricho yaya-cittātmā yadokshajam. He's talking to his demonic friends. He's preaching to his demonic friends, and he's saying, therefore, my dear young friends born of demons, please act in such a way that the Supreme Lord, who is beyond the conception of material knowledge, will be satisfied. Give up your demonic nature and act without enmity or duality. Show mercy to all living entities by enlightening them in devotional service and thus becoming their well-wishers. So what is this? What is Prahlad Maharaj doing? Prahlad Maharaj is basically, he is preaching what his success formula. He's actually preaching his success formula. He's saying that you just invest yourself in those activities that will please the Supreme Lord. Give away your demonic qualities of enmity and duality, and show mercy to all living entities by preaching about devotional life, and then become their well-wishers. So I wanted to read something from this purport, which was very interesting. Prabhupada, and one important point before I read is Prahlad is experiencing a satisfaction, which also means he is above the temptations that we are going through right now. And what way does he get this satisfaction? You know, we try to do so many things in this material world to be happy, to be satisfied. I mean, everything we do in this material world is basically to be satisfied, to be happy. Why do I wear this color sari, or why do I have this particular kind of food I like to eat, or why I hang out with some people? Because those things give me happiness and gives me satisfaction. Or why do I build my career, or why I run after money, or why I run after relationships? Everything is for the satisfaction. But Prahlad is standing up as an example, and we want to see where is his satisfaction coming from. Prabhupada writes in the purport. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 1855, Bhaktyamam abhijananti yavanas yas chasmi tattva. One can understand the Supreme Personality as he only by devotional service. Prahlad Maharaj ultimately instructed his class friends, the sons of the demons, to accept the process of devotional service by preaching the science of Krishna consciousness to everyone. Preaching is the best service to the Lord. The Lord will immediately be extremely satisfied with one who engages in the service of preaching Krishna consciousness. This is confirmed by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita 1869. Nāśīr manisheshu kastin me priya kritamaha. There is no servant in this world more dear to me than he, nor will there be one more dear. If one sincerely tries his best to spread Krishna consciousness by preaching the glories of the Lord and his supremacy, even if he is imperfectly educated, he becomes the dearmost servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is Bhakti. As one performs this service for humanity without discrimination between friends and enemies, the Lord becomes satisfied, and the mission of one's life is fulfilled. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore advised everyone to become a guru devotee and preach Krishna consciousness. Yare deke tare kaha Krishna upadesha. That is the easiest way to realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By such preaching, the preacher becomes satisfied, and to those who he preaches are also satisfied. This is the process of bringing peace and tranquility to the end. So Prabhupada is making very clear that you cannot achieve satisfaction by just engaging in material activities. See, in this chapter also, as we were talking in the beginning, that how Krishna changes his gear from transcendental knowledge to the activities. So some activities are classified into vikarma, some activities are classified into karma, and some activities are classified into akarma. And then why is everyone engaged? Why is a person becoming, say for example, a thief? He knows that when he does the theft, he's going to get caught, and once he gets caught, he will be punished. At what risk is he making this endeavor? And say, suppose someone is eating meat. Why is he killing animals? Why is he so cruel, unkind? Or someone is becoming abusive to others. Where does this taste come from? And what makes him be very unkind to other people? Or like gambling, all the four sinful ways which we are prohibited to do, like smoking, drinking, eating meat, illicit sex, and whatever the kind of gambling. Why we do it? And why are some living entities pushed into it? Or why, before Krishna consciousness, why we were pushed into it? Because we thought that these activities would some or the other give us some satisfaction. And then we take to karma kanda. There are so many rituals that are described in the Vedas, and there are so many yajnas, so many ways and means to calculate how to get piety, to go into heavenly planets, and how to nullify, and how to go through praischita. So there are so many ritualistic activities described in Vedas. Why are we doing that? Why is someone aspiring to go to heavenly planets? To be satisfied, right? But the Krishna conscious person knows he won't be getting satisfied. That's why Krishna is bringing these activities. He's saying that, okay, you did get into this material world and you're trying your best to be satisfied, but it won't be fruitful. And Prabhupada in this purport gives many examples that, like how there are bolts and nuts that are connected with the machine. And once they're out of the machine, they don't have any value for them. And Prabhupada also gives another example of, sorry, I just wanted to say one more example. Oh, this is about the animal. Yeah, the hand moves, but the hand doesn't move on its own accord, but it moves according to the body. So why Prabhupada is making these points? Because Krishna is making these points that, whatever kind of work you do, at the end, they would encourage you to do some sin. But if you engage in Krishna conscious, you wouldn't incur any sin. And also, it will stop your cycle of birth and death. You got this human form of life in 8.4 million species of life. And only in this, you're able to channelize, you're able to think beyond what is there, beyond your psychological and physiological natures. And the work which is defined here, when he was going to the work, he says that how is the work described? The work is divided according to one's guna and karma, one's acquired tendencies, psychological makeover, how one is having their pushes to and inclinations that helps them to acquire a certain body, and by developing the qualities being in that body, you will be categorized into one part of the varna and ashram. So often we know that just being born in Brahmana family, we cannot become Brahmana. But however, saying that, so being born in a Brahmana family, that means somehow, somewhere, you showed a little inclination towards the Brahmanical situation. So you did get a body. So here is your chance to grow and develop into a fully mature Brahma. But a Krishna conscious person is much more higher, because you may be born in the varnashrama or out the caste or anything, wherever you born, however you born, whatever is your circumstances, wherever is your psychological and physiological makeover. Just by practicing bhakti, we will be able to come to the platform of Brahma Bhuta and appreciate Krishna as a devotee. So Krishna consciousness knowledge is about making us understand how to apply this knowledge and how to feel satisfied. And I was also very perplexed when I read this purport, when Prabhupada says that, like an animal, he has no proprietorship even over his own body. A cruel proprietor of an animal sometimes kills the animal in his possession, yet the animal does not protest, nor does it have any real independence. So what does it mean? Like, okay, I understand Krishna gave me this facility and doing everything. But he's not real proprietor, but he's the most benevolent person. So the comparison of this example perplexed me in the beginning. I was like, how do we understand? Here we need to understand that the essence of the proprietorship, that the proprietorship of the animal is not with the animal, but it's with the owner, whether he's good or bad. But our proprietor is Krishna, who is the most benevolent. But he is the most benevolent autocrat. You know why? Because if he knows that you're going in a wrong way, he will put so many obstacles to pull you back to bhakti. So many. And he provides you the Guru Sadhu Shastra to guide you back to him. So in that sense, he's very strict. But he's the most merciful person. And we will also see in, again, Prahlad Maharaj's example. Prahlad his father took Prahlad on his lap and asked him, okay, my dear son, you went to the Gurukul, now tell me, what did you learn? So Prahlad says that, you are the best of the asuras, but you are rotting in this material household life, just give up and go to Vrindavan. And Hiranyakashipu was so intimidated. How could this little boy, who's only 5 years old, is speaking to me in this way? And then he chastised Prahlad. I mean, this is the first time. It didn't go much more. It was the first time. And then, and Sanda and Namarka, they're asking Prahlad, why are you talking like this? Why can't you give up this bhakti? And he says that, I am not independent. I am dependent, because he's in a perfect harmony with Krishna. He uses an example that how iron is attracted by magnet, I am automatically attracted to Krishna. So for a living entity, Prabhupada mentions in the purport again, there 7514, saying that all living entities are attracted towards Krishna. And this attraction is so much natural. And therefore, Lord's real name is Krishna. Krishna means all attractiveness. And therefore, he attracts everyone and everything. And what is a typical example is that such attraction is found in Vrindavan, where everything and everyone is attracted to Krishna. This is because they are perfectly in harmony with Krishna. So, stating that there is a shloka in 4th canto, the Prachetas. The Prachetas are glorifying the Lord. Yato daro mula nisyechana Vipyanti skanda bhujogashakam pranopaharacha tatendriyanam tataiva sarvam achyutecha. As pouring water on the root of the tree energizes the trunk, branches, twigs, and everything else, and as supplying food to the stomach enlivens the senses and limbs of the body, simply worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead through devotional service automatically satisfies the demigods who are parts of the Supreme Personality. So we no need to do any extra endeavor to become satisfied. We can be where we are situated, we can work, but let's keep the priority, the bhakti in the center. So this way Prahlad is declaring that I am so much dependent on my Lord. You know, the same thing we see the gopis of Vrindavana, of course, the very high level devotees. All the devotees we are talking are very high level devotees, no doubt. They're also showing how bhakti is very practical. And I was listening to this lecture by Srila Prabhupada on 421 Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada is talking such an amazing coincidence, or maybe it's very apt to the situation. Prabhupada was talking in this lecture about the shortage of food crisis. And he was talking about the violence that we do to the animals, which creates all the misfortune in this world. And today we are facing COVID crisis. The whole world is suffering through the pandemic. Everyone is locked down, we cannot go anywhere, and practically we are restricted to our limited space. And of course, we all are facing inconveniences in one way or the other. Some are more inconvenient, they're facing more inconveniences, and some are little less. But really look into the COVID crisis. Where are we at? Why are we in this position? And where did it start? Okay, according to the history of the COVID crisis, it started in China from wet meat markets. What is wet meat markets? Why do people go there? To buy meat. And Prabhupada was talking in this lecture that, you know, if you don't control your senses and if you don't accept your quota, you will create crisis. As being human beings, you need to be regulated enough to know what to eat, what to offer, and you need to know what not to eat. And it is very sad that, you know, we don't know these things. And we claim ourselves that we are very well educated, more civilized. In what way we are civilized? We don't know how to mold our lives. We don't have awareness of the value of human life. We don't have awareness how much is our quotas. And it's practically difficult to draw a line between what is our need, what is our want. And we also can recall in the first meeting of Srila Prabhupada with Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj was asking Prabhupada to go to the West and preach. But Prabhupada was saying that the country is under a rule of the British. So I cannot really go there, you know. First we have to claim, we have to get independence, and then we can go. Then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj makes a point saying that, you know, the only lacking thing in this world is Krishna consciousness, nothing else. And Krishna consciousness cannot wait for anything. Because when we understand Krishna is our supreme proprietor, benefactor, and friend, and by knowing this knowledge and by acting in this knowledge, one will be able to distinguish what is my quota. And by preaching this message, slowly, gradually, we will be able to come to this level of satisfaction. Prabhupada also writes that one does not need to do things abruptly. Okay, I heard this, so let I be satisfied. Maybe it won't come so naturally, but gradually, as we practice, we will be able to come to this stage of complete satisfaction. When the more the consciousness is clearing, the more we become Krishna conscious, we will be able to treat everyone nicely. We will be able to acknowledge what I need and what I don't need. And it's also confirmed in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 2062. Krishna Bhakti Kaila Sarva Karma Kritaha. If one is engaged in devotional service of the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, everything automatically is accomplished. Why it is said automatically accomplished? Because there is no duality in the consciousness. So when there is no duality of consciousness, when the consciousness is not revolving around me and mine, we always we will extend ourselves to share more and share whatever we have. And sometimes, I become very possessive of some things that I don't want to share with people. But then I see that, why you can't share? Because I am not so selfless yet, but maybe I become selfless. I have an opportunity to do that. And last but not the least, Devamrita Swami Maharaj says that Krishna consciousness is not anti-work, but we work. We go to work to give, not just to get. Giving work doesn't mean that to give ourselves Krishna consciousness and to give Krishna consciousness to others. That means we use the resources, we use everything that we gain out of this world in spreading Krishna consciousness, in the ability, whatever the ability we have. Okay, we can support only one person, giving them some prashadam, or giving some time, or going out and distributing books, whatever. If your ability is only limited, no problem, just do it. So we have to learn this art, science, and culture. So again, so by this, by such an understanding, when we act in such an understanding, we will be able to become Krishna conscious, and at the same time, we wouldn't be affected by any sinful reactions, whether we work outside, whether we are full-time devotee, wherever we are. Our motivations are in line with the mood and mission of Srila Prabhupada and the Vaishnavas. So that itself will protect us and help us to go higher. And I stop here, and I thank everyone for patiently hearing from me. If you have any questions, comments, reflections, anything that strikes you, if you want to correct me, please go ahead and do it. Thank you again.
So Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Prabhu. Please ask.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna
for
Prabhu.
inspiring class. My question is that here in this verse it is written that one has to act only for the bare necessities of life.
Mm-hmm.
And Srila Prabhupada tells in one of the purport that we have to, whatever we are earning, 50% has to be contributed towards the Krishna conscious activities, 25% for maintenance, and 25% should be saving for the future. So how will reconcile both the things?
Thank you, Prabhu. So first of all, acting only for the bare necessities of the life. Okay. So before we come to this point, we have to see the other criteria. What is this man? He is completely, his mind and intelligence are perfectly controlled, and he gives all sense of proprietorship over his possessions. Those two things also matter, along with coming to the bare necessities of life. This is very much applicable for Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, because we see Rupa Goswami, he was working as a governor. And when he left his work, his job, he got a lot of gold. And he didn't have anything for himself, but he divided everything amongst. He gave to the Vaishnavas, he gave to his relatives. He kept aside a little bit for Sanatan Goswami to escape. And, and he divided that. He also divided according to the principle what he preached. So, but when we see their lifestyles in Vrindavan, they were just acting for their bare necessities because they're fully Krishna conscious. And Prabhupada also advises that we are the followers of the Rupa Goswami. So we have to walk in the footsteps of the Rupa Goswami. So Rupa Goswami gave this Yukta Vairagya principle that, every day we use and engage in Krishna service. And if we are able to do this 50% challenge, this is very nice. This itself is a big accomplishment for ourselves, because these days we see it's also it's not that easy task. So maybe for us this is the bare necessities of life. Bare necessities of life doesn't mean that we just have only 2 saris and just eat a handful of chick rice. Maybe not. That's what Prabhupada quote that let's say 1 second. Sorry, just give me. So we should not act abruptly, but gradually we have to come to this position. Sorry, I don't know where this particular line Prabhupada says. Maybe you can search on database. So yeah, so okay, I am at this stage. So I want to go to the next stage. So let I make this stage very practical. So this also means that we invest more in our daily practices, so that Krishna gives that intelligence if we are very sincere enough. Dadami buddhi yoganta, he is sitting in the heart and he wants to give this knowledge. It's just I am not turning to him, right? So I understand in this way, but if you have any other suggestions, I would really happy to receive.
Thank you very much, Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Anyone else have any comments or questions?
Looks like no one.
It looks like we're finished for today. Thank you very much for the class.
Thank you for the opportunity. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Hare